Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're basically jumping into a 2,000-year-old detective story, and we're going to see how these ancient minds solved a really complex problem, not with forensics, but with just pure razor-sharp logic. So our whole investigation, it doesn't start with some abstract law. No, it kicks off with a real-world case, and everything, literally everything, hinges on this one high-stakes question. The answer here isn't just about someone's dinner. It's about how a fundamental law gets understood for generations to come. And here is our crime scene, if you will. Picture this, a bustling marketplace. A bull has been slaughtered, but something's off. The cut, it isn't clean. Yeah, it looks like it was done in 2, or maybe even 3 separate motions. And believe it or not, this one animal, it's about to become the heart of this huge intellectual puzzle. Okay, so let's dive right into the core of the argument here. We're going to meet the 2 lead scholars in our case, and, well, they have completely different takes on the evidence. All right, so on one side, you've got this scholar named Rav. For him, it's pretty straightforward. Look, as long as the cut does the job, who cares how many motions it took? But then you have his colleague, Shmuel, who's like, not so fast. He brings in this really powerful new idea, a principle of clarity. Shmuel's whole point is that the act has to be what's called shechita mefura'at, which basically means a clear, obvious slaughter. You see, for him, you can't have this ambiguous, choppy process. No, it's got to be one single, decisive, unmistakable action, clean and simple. And check this out. This is such a brilliant way to illustrate the point. Another scholar, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, he actually connects Shmuel's idea to a verse from the prophet Yirmeya. He says the cut has to be like a sharpened arrow, clean, direct, no question about its path. It's such a poetic image, but it's also legally super powerful. Now, what happens next is what makes this so fascinating. They don't just sit around and debate the theory in the abstract. Oh no, they test it. They start digging through old case files, these prior rulings, to see if this whole clear-cut idea actually holds up. It's like they're treating legal history like a set of clues in an investigation. And right away, they hit a snag, a big one. A scholar named Rabbi Elazar brings up the first major objection. He points to this older ruling that seems to, completely blow Shmuel's new principle out of the water. Yeah, this precedent seems crystal clear. There's this older law in the books that says, yep, 2 people with 2 different knives cutting in 2 different spots on the neck. It's a valid slaughter. I mean, this looks like a knockout punch for the one clear-cut theory, right? How on earth can that be a single unambiguous action? But our legal detectives, they don't just give up. To get around this, another scholar, Rabbi Yirmeya, comes up with this totally brilliant reinterpretation of that old case. He's basically like, hey, what if we've been reading this evidence all wrong? He puts forward this idea. Maybe the original case wasn't about 2 knives at all. What if it was actually describing 2 people holding one knife, one person at each end, and making a single, continuous, diagonal cut? If that's what it meant, well then the single cut principle is saved. It's an incredibly clever way to resolve the conflict. All right, so let's follow this investigation even deeper. Because just when you think they've got it all figured out, a new scholar steps in and, you guessed it, the plot thickens. So this next scholar, Rabbi Abba, he's not buying that really elegant solution. He digs deeper into the original text of that old ruling, and he finds a little detail, a clue, that just doesn't seem to fit with the one-knife theory. Okay, let's slow down for a second, because this is the crucial piece of evidence right here. See, Rabbi Abba points out that the original text actually explains why this ruling was made in the first place. The text says the thing they were worried about was that one person might get lazy and rely on the other guy to do the work. Now think about it. That worry only makes sense if they have 2 separate knives. If they were both holding one knife, the concern would be totally different, right? You'd worry that one person might press too hard and mess up the cut. So the why in the original text just doesn't line up with this new one-knife theory. And this is where it gets wild. In a really stunning move, another scholar, Rabbi Avin, suggests a fix that sounds so incredibly modern. He basically says, look, if the text we have doesn't fit our logical theory, then maybe our copy of the text is wrong. Maybe it's corrupted. So what's the solution? Let's just change the text. I mean, that's a seriously bold move, right? To prioritize pure logical consistency over the text that's been handed down. But get this. Rabbi Avin, the very same guy who just said, let's change the text, he immediately turns around and presents another piece of conflicting evidence from a totally different ruling. This other case says a slaughter is totally valid if the windpipe is cut up high on the neck and the gullet is cut way down low. I mean, again, that sounds a lot like two separate cuts, doesn't it? And then, in another brilliant twist, he solves his own puzzle. He argues that this case isn't about two separate cuts either. No, it's one single continuous diagonal cut. And he gives this amazing visual. He says it's angled like the sharpened nib of a quill pen. The word is kikulmos. So the blade starts high on one side and ends low on the other, but it's all one unbroken motion. Just like that, another elegant save for the clear-cut theory. So after all of this incredible back and forth, right, this amazing intellectual gymnastics, debating theories, rereading old cases, the most crucial part is how that original case, the one with the bull, actually got resolved. Not in a book, but on the ground. So let's go all the way back to the beginning, back to our opening scene. That bull, the one with the questionable slaughter, is right there in the marketplace. The scholars have had their big debate, sure, but the butcher, the customers, they need an answer. Now, is this meat kosher or not?
And then the verdict arrives, but it's not spoken. A top authority, this Rabbi Yitzhak, he just walks right into the market. He sees the bull. He totally gets the debate that's been raging, and without a single word, he goes over and takes a piece of the highest quality meat for himself.
And that single, simple action, it just cuts through all the noise, all the debate. Everyone there immediately understands what it means. It's the final ruling. By taking that meat, Rabbi Yitzhak has just declared, without speaking, that it is in fact kosher. In that one moment, his action became the law. It validated the more lenient, practical view, no matter what all the brilliant theories said. And really, this is what this whole story is showing us about how law actually works. It's not just some dusty thing in a book. It's a living, breathing process. And it's shaped not just by abstract logic, but by decisive actions out in the real world. So this 2,000-year-old case leaves us with a really powerful final thought to chew on. When is a simple action more powerful than even the most brilliant debate?